Good morning, all of you. So far we discussed a few of the aspects in Java. What are those aspects? We discussed what is language and what is programming language. What is programming language? And we discussed about what is Java. Oh, sorry, I'm sharing my screen. What is Java? What is language? What is programming language? And what is Java? And how programming language build? And how programming language build? We discussed with a diagram, right? And we discussed about the Java features, and we discussed about the Java history, meaning which version currently we are using. So everything we discussed in the Java history, and after that we discussed about Java program structure. Java program structure. So how the structure should be. So it contains some structure. What is that structure? What is language? Hmm? Language is a uh, language is a mediator which will act as a mediator between two entities. Okay. Next, what is programming language? Programming language as a act as a mediator between human and machine. Next, what is Java? Java is also programming language. There are various programming language in the market. So from that we are using the Java programming language. Okay. And how the programming language build we discussed with the diagram. And what are the Java features? Java features basically syntax, easy syntax, and simple syntax, and portable. Portable meaning you can easily transfer from one place to another place, easily portable, and it is independent, platform independent, platform independent. Next, it supports OOPS principles. It supports OOPS principles, OOPS principles, and next, it supports multi-threading, and where we discussed about it provide it is high secure language, secure language. So these are the uh, big features in Java. So that is the reason we are going with the Java and Java history. So currently, which version we are using? So either 1.8 or 11 or 11. Why only latest version is 25? But we are not going with the latest version. We are going with the 1.8 or 11. So why? Because there is a reason. That reason we discussed at the previous session. Next, Java program structure. In the Java program structure, it have the structure. The structure is first one is the package statement. Package statement. Package statement meaning it is the first line of the program, and it contains a group of classes and interfaces. Group of classes and interfaces. Next, we discussed about the import statements. Import statements based on the requirement we can import number of import statements. Okay, there is no restrictions. Based on the requirement you can import number of import statements. Next, class declaration. Class declaration. Class declaration. Class is a plan or just imagination. Okay, inside the class we can declare variables and methods. Inside the class we can declare variables and methods. Okay, and next after that we have based on the requirement we will take the variables, and variables we can take number of variables, and next methods we can take the number of methods. We can take the number of methods. Any Java program, any project, the structure should be like this only. Any project in the world with it related to Java, the structure should be like this only. Okay, anywhere you can see any real-time project, the structure should be like this only. Okay, import statement based on the package statement. Okay, based on the requirement, we'll be having a number of import statements, class declaration, variables, and methods. Any project, the structure should be like this only. Okay, the structure should be like this only. Next, we can go ahead with after that we discussed about the Java program. Which one? After that we discussed about Java program element, Java programs elements, Java program elements, Java program development. So how we can develop the program that we discussed with the respect to diagram. So generally we will write the Java file, and that we compile by using compiler. Compiler converted into source files into bytecode. That is the intermediate language that cannot be understood by the human and that cannot be understood by the machine. Again, we will use the JVM. JVM will convert to bytecode to machine language. Machine language in the format of 1100 1100. That is the machine language. Machine can understand only binary language. Java program development. Next, after that, we discussed about before here only. Here we discussed about how to download and install JDK software also. How to download and install JDK software as well. JDK software, Java program development. Next, we discussed about we are already I shared a syllabus to you, right? This is the syllabus. Mm. This is the syllabus. According to the syllabus, we are going with that. We discussed about Java introduction, Java features, Java installation, Java program execution flow, Java program elements, Java program development, how we can write the program, and compilation. What does it mean by compilation? And we discussed about the execution, how we can execute the files. And after that, we discussed about the translators. 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 The main purpose of translator, which are used to convert one format to another format. In Java, there are three types of translators. One is the compiler, and second one we have the interpreter, and third one we have assembler. These are the three translators we have in Java. So what the compiler will do? It will convert source files into bytecode. Okay. Next, what the interpreter will do? It convert bytecode into machine language, binary language. Next, assembler which can convert assembler language into machine language. Machine language. These are the three translators. And next, we discussed about JVM architecture. JVM architecture. So, in the interview perspective, they will ask what is JVM. JVM is the Java Virtual Machine, which is responsible for program execution, memory allocation, and memory deallocation. JVM architecture has the components. Those are like a class loader, and next method area, next heap area, next Java stack, PC register, and native stack. Native stack. Next, we discussed about execution engine. Execution engine. Next, we discussed about native interface and native libraries. You guys tell me what does it mean by class loader and each component? Native libraries. Can you guys please tell me what does it mean by class loader? Hmm? What is class loader?
Loads the dot class file.
Class loader. It loads the dart class files into the JVM. Dart class files into the JVM. Next, what is method area? Hmm? మీరు నోట్స్ రాసుకోలేదా? మరి ఎవరు రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వట్లేదు? వాట్ డస్ ఇట్ మీన్ బై మెథడ్ ఏరియా?
Dart class code stored here.
మెథడ్ ఏరియా.
Method.
మెథడ్ ఏరియా. Method area which is used to store the class code. Which is used to store the class code. Class code. Okay, next, heap area. What does it mean by heap area? What is the purpose of heap area? Which is used to store the objects. Which is used to. So that is the reason I'm saying you guys, you should write the class note. Okay, which is used to store the objects. Okay, next, what is Java stack?
Method
What is the
execution.
methods execution information will be available. Method execution information will be stored. Information will be stored. Next, PC register.
Next line. Next line.
Lines execution information. Meaning which line is executing currently, which line will be executed the next. So lines execution information will be stored. Next, native stack.
C, C++, and Java.
Non Java code. You can say non Java code, not related to Java. Code will be stored in this location. Will be stored here. So to be frank, JVM also designed by using C and C language, C plus language. So you can write C and C++ language in the JDK software, and then you can execute those programs as well. If you write any C++ languages, that code will be stored in this location. The location is native stack. Next, we have the execution engine. What it will do? It will convert source code, meaning bytecode to machine language. machine language. This machine language also called as binary language, which is in the format of 1000, like that. Okay, it will convert bytecode to machine language, that is called binary language, by using two translators. By using two translators. Two translators. What are those two?
Interpreter.
Compiler, interpreter, jitter. Interpreter and jitter. Interpreter and jitter. These are the two. Are you guys clear with my words? Execution engine, it will convert bytecode to machine language using two translators. What are the two? Interpreter and jitter. Okay, so JDK team added to execution engine to increase performance. If you go with the only interpreter approach, it can translate only line by line. If it translates, for example, there is 1,000 of lines. Okay, so if we take at least 1 second of executing one line, approximately can take, it will the entire file it will take around 1,000 seconds. It will take a huge time. So that is the reason we won't go with the only with the help of interpreter. JDK team they added the JIT component to the JVM architecture. Now next to execution engine. The execution engine it will convert bytecode to machine language in the form of binary language by using two translators. One is the interpreter and second one is the jitter. Okay, so by default you have the interpreter. JDK team they added the JIT to the JVM architecture to increase the performance. So that is also one of the reason Java is the high performance language because of there are two translators they can convert bytecode to machine language. That is also one reason. That is the reason Java is the high performance language. So now they both together they compile, they convert bytecode to machine language. Bytecode to machine language. Next, native interface. What is the purpose of native interface? Native interface.
Native,
Hmm.
load native.
Exactly. It will load, meaning it will act as a mediator between. Uh, we'll go with it will load. It will load native libraries. Native libraries into the execution engine. Execution engine. Okay, and you can say it will act as a mediator between native interface and execution engine. Next to native libraries, which contains non-related non-Java libraries, non-Java libraries, meaning C, C++ libraries, predefined libraries are available in this location. This is the JVM architecture. This is clear. Anyone have any queries? This is JVM architecture we discussed. Okay. So next we discussed about. So with that we completed the chapter number 1. Okay. Now today we'll So after that, we discussed few of the aspects in the chapter number 2. In the chapter number 2, chapter number 2, we started variables. Variables. What is the purpose of variables? Variables are the container which are used to store the values. Variables are the containers which are used to store the values. Okay, so variables are, there are two types. One is the, not two types, variable can have the two parts: variable declaration and variable initialization. Variable declaration and variable initialization. So in the variable declaration, we can declare what kind of data we want to store in the variable and variable name. These two things we can declare in the variable declaration. The syntax is variable declaration, variable I would say data type and variable name. This is variable declaration. Variable initialization meaning we are assigning value into the variable, that is called variable initialization. For example, age. I would like to mention some 20, 30, some age I mentioned some 30. Okay, 30 is the value. That value I'm assigning to that age. These two lines you can write in single line also. That is called variable declaration and initialization. Variable declaration and initialization and initialization. Variable declaration and initialization, that you can write in like this. The syntax should be like this: data type, variable name equal to value. That I can write like this: the data type is the integer, variable name is the age, and here I would like to mention some 25. This is variable declaration and initialization. Declare meaning what is the data type and what is the variable. Next, initialization meaning we are assigning a value into the variable, that is called initialization. Next, after that, we discussed about the data types. Data types. So data types, what is the purpose of data types? What is data type? Hmm?
Specify the data.
Which is used to specify the type of data, which is used to specify the type of data, the type of data. And in Java, we have, there are two types of data types. Data types are two types. One is primitive data types. Data types are two types. One is primitive data types. Second one is primitive data types, and second one is non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types also called as reference data types. Reference data types. Reference data types. Okay, so after that we discussed about primitive data types. So primitive data types generally, what does it mean by primitive data types? So primitive data types are immutable. Primitive data types are immutable. What does it mean by immutable? We cannot change the values. We cannot change the values. We cannot change the values. And next, it can hold the single values. It can hold single values. Single values. If you want to store the multiple values, we will we cannot go with the primitive data types. It can hold the single values. So again, primitive data types are categorized into four groups. Primitive data types. Primitive data types are categorized categorized into categorized into four groups. What are the four groups? Number type,
Number type.
next decimal, next
Character.
char, meaning character,
Boolean.
next boolean. Uh, Again, number character is divided into four types. What are the four types?
Byte.
Byte,
Short.
short, int, long. Why there as divided into four types? Is there any reason?
Range value.
Hmm? Number type. Number is the group, and the number group all are belong to numbers only, which are all are used to store the numbers only. What is the reason behind that? They are again they divided into four types.
Size
Hmm?
value. Size.
Range is the one reason. Next, size. Size. You have to tell the exact answer is size. Okay, size. Only the difference is size. And the default values. In the fresher level interviews, they will ask default values for the byte, short, int, long. These are the very regular questions. Byte, int, short. For all the number type, default values is the 0. Okay, only the difference is size and range. Okay. Under the decimal group, we discussed about a float and a double. Here also, the default value is 0.0f, 0.0f, and next the double default value is 0.0.0d, 0d. Okay, next character type. Data type is char, and here we can store the single characters only, which is used to store the single characters, which is used to store the single characters. And whenever we are storing the characters, single quotations is mandatory. single quotation Single quotation is mandatory. Single quotation is mandatory. And we can store only single characters. Only single characters. Okay, if you want to store the multiple characters, we can go ahead with stringer. Single character. Okay, if you want to store the multiple characters, we can go ahead with the string. Okay, so the data type is the char. Here you can store the value, some name. Okay, like this. So after that, we discussed about the boolean. It will return the either true or false. It will return true or false. True or false. True or false. So these are the topics we discussed about the primitive data types. Next, after that, we discussed about non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types. So generally, if you can see here, only here it can hold only single value, right? Only single value. For example, I want to store a student marks. There is a one student, that the student name is some Raju. He returned 10th class exam. I want to write a program to store the student marks. So the student we have the six subject in 10th class, right? So same program I want to write through the Java program. How we can write? First, we can go ahead with the primitive approach. For example, we'll try to understand two scenarios with respect to primitive approach, with respect to non-primitive approach. Okay, now we'll go ahead with the primitive approach. Primitive approach. primitive approach. If I go with the primitive approach, there is a student, he got the marks 80, 85, 90, 95, like that we can take. If I go with the primitive approach to write the Java program, to write a Java program, to write Java program. So how I can do that? Uh, int subject 1 equal to 80 marks. 80 marks. Public class. Normally, I can take the directory variables and next subject 2, subject 3. So up to subject 6, I will take the same thing. 2, and then I can copy these two variables, and now I can copy. There are 6 subjects, and 6 subjects. If I go with the primitive approach, I need to take every variable. Subject 2, next subject 3, and subject 4, 5, and 6. Again, I need to take SOP statement to print the results. Okay, this is the data of one student data. I want to store I want to store 100 students data. Then at the time, what should I do? I need to create 100 into 6. I need to create, there are 600 variables. Okay, let us assume there are 1000 students. I need to write a Java program to store the 1000 people's data. 600 into 1000 into 6. 1000 into 6. There are 6000 variables I need to create. If I go with this approach, so these many variables I need to create. This is a good programming. This is not at all a good programming. If I go with this approach, so I need to create 6000 variables. I need to create 6000 variables. This is not a good programming. Okay, it will take more time, and we are creating the variable meaning. We are assigning the memory for each variable. This is not a good programming. So how you can overcome that issues and how we can write the programs, we can go ahead with the non-primitive data types. In the non-primitive data types, where we have the arrays concept. So these variables, what it is doing, these here we took, there are 6 variables, and we written in 6 lines. But with the help of arrays concept, you can write in single line. We can write in single line. Subject marks, I can mention subject marks equal to, like that you can write in single line 80, and all are 80 only, right? 80, 80, like that, 80, 80, and 80. Yeah, so that's it. You can see here, this is the easy program, or this is the easy program. Non-primitive data types is the easy program. In the real-time scenarios, we will, all the projects will be do by using non-primitive data types only. Non-primitive data types only. Okay, non-primitive. So sometimes you can inject the values. At the time we will use the primitive data types. So majorly, if you want to manage if you want to organize the huge data, that huge data. So here we can take number of variables that you can store in one reference variables. Okay, this reference variable can hold huge data. So how much the huge data is, you can use imagination. So it can hold a huge data. There is no restrictions. It can hold a huge data. It can hold a huge data. For example, in India, there are multiple, more than 1 lakh uh, colleges, right? almost 20,000 to colleges. You can it can hold all the college students information also. So such kind of use data it can store. Such kind of use data it can store. So like that, arrays is the one non-primitive data type category. Next, strings. Next, class. Next, collections. Collections. What are the non-primitive data types? Arrays, strings, class, collections. These are the four comes under the category of non-primitive data types. Based on the index position, it can store the values and it can retrieve the values based on the index positions. Okay, this is clear. Okay, so after that we discussed about variables. Okay, fine. Next, data types. Okay, fine. Next, we discussed about the identifiers. We discussed about the identifiers. Identifiers. What does it mean by identifiers? What is the purpose of identifier? If you attend the interview, they will ask what is identifier. Then what is your answer? How you can say the answer? What is identifier? Hmm? Huh? Hmm? మన మొన్న రాసుకున్న నోట్స్ రాసుకున్నారా సరే ఐడెంటిఫైర్స్ ఐడెంటిఫైర్స్ ఓపెన్ చేయి అది రాయలేదా చెప్పలేదా ఓకే ఓకే మీకు డేటా టైప్స్ వరకు అని చెప్పింది ఓకే ఓకే మీకు గోల్డ్ వరకు చెప్పింది మీకు చెప్పలేదా రాసుకున్నారు మీరు ఎందుకని ఓకే ఓకే మీరు ఏది మరేది మాట్లాడరు మౌనంగా పోయారా ఎక్కడ ఇంకా చెప్పాలా ఓకే మరి రాసేవా మరి చెప్పలేము అర్థం కాదు ఓకే 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 సో I guess new batch we not discussed about the identifiers. Okay, so we can go ahead with the identifiers. So what does it mean by identifiers? Identifiers meaning all Java components are required. All Java components are required. All Java components required names. Required names. Okay, which are used to required names, which are identifiers, which are used to access or invoke anything, access or identify. Okay, identify the classes. Okay, variables, methods, methods, and constructors and constructors. Okay, so while writing the identifiers, we need to follow some standards. We need to follow. We need to follow some standards. We have some rules. We need to follow some rules. Some rules. What are the rules? We'll go with the rule number one. We'll go ahead with the rule number one. What is the rule number one? What is the rule number one? Oh, identifiers cannot start with the digit. Cannot start with the digit. Okay. For example, if I want to write the define the class name, public class demo from here to here. This is the scope of the class, and this is the class name, right? This is also one identifier. This cannot start with the digit. If I write like this is invalid. This is invalid. Are you guys clear with my words? If I write like this is invalid. Okay, this is with respect to variable methods and constructor. Any Java component also, if you can start with the digit, that is invalid. That is invalid. So most of them at the beginning level, at the time of giving the naming conventions, most of them are confusing. So don't confuse. You should follow the rules and the Java naming conventions. Java naming conventions. Okay. So please listen, everyone. After end of the session, I will ask each of one. Okay. You guys, you have to tell answer for those. Next, rule number two. Rule number two. Rule number two is for identifiers we cannot use we cannot we cannot use reserved words reserved words reserved words. So in Java there are 53 reserved words are there. Reserved words meaning predefined keywords. Predefined keywords already have some functionality. Each keyword has each purpose. Each keyword has each purpose. We cannot use keyword as predefined keyword as a identifier. We cannot use predefined keyword as a identifier. Okay. Like byte, short. These all are the keywords. Byte. I can say short. For example, if I write like this, name int byte equal to 20. If I write like this is valid. This is valid or invalid? Hmm? Invalid. Why? Why? Byte is the predefined keyword. So byte is the predefined keyword. We cannot use predefined keywords as the variable names. We cannot use predefined keywords as the identifiers. We cannot use predefined keywords as the I would say identifiers. This is invalid. And if I take like this int public equal to some 200. If I write like this is also invalid. Public also predefined keyword. Okay, predefined keyword. So there are predefined keywords. I will give the list, and you have to remember those keywords. Next, int if I mention private equal to some 300, then this is valid or invalid? This is also invalid. Next, if I mention int I can take some string equal to some Raju. This is valid or invalid? This is also invalid. Why? Because this is the predefined Java class name. This is the predefined Java class name. Okay, that is invalid. Next, I would like to take int age equal to some 25. Now this is valid or invalid? This is valid. Okay, age is the normal custom name, and we are assigning 25 to that custom name. This is valid approach. This is valid approach. This is valid approach. This is valid approach. Next, that is the rule number 2, and we'll go ahead with the rule number 3. Rule number 3, while giving the naming conventions, we should not give the spaces. we should not give the spaces. We should not give the spaces in between. Okay. For example, there is a class demo test, public class, there is a class demo test. If you write like this is invalid. This is invalid. We should not give the spaces for classes, identifiers, I would say methods, variables, and constructors. Any component, any Java component, we cannot give the spaces. Any Java component, we cannot give the spaces. We cannot give the spaces. If you write like this is invalid. This is invalid. Then how we can write? How we can write? Public class demo test, and from here to here this is the scope of the class. This is valid this is valid this is valid approach. This is valid approach. Okay, this is the rule number 3. Now we'll go ahead with the rule number 4. Rule number 4 In the rule number 4, we cannot accept special characters. We cannot use special characters as a identifier except underscore and a dollar also. Huh? Huh? Okay, screen is not coming, right? Okay, now coming, right? Except underscore and dollar symbol, where basically, yeah. So some of them what they do, so they are completely front end. So in the front end in CSS, we will use the hyphen, but in Java at the naming conventions, we cannot use the hyphen. These are the symbols you can use. For example, if I write like this, like mobile bill, variable name is mobile bill, mobile bill. This is the naming convention you should follow in Java, like some 3000. Okay, you can write like this also. Mobile bill. This is valid approach. This is valid. Next, mobile, mobile. You can write like this. This is also valid. Mobile equal to some iPhone, some 16. This is the value. We'll take with the mobile number. Why? Because we're taking as integer. So this is the only the special characters allow. Apart from that, if you take any other special character like int mobile at the rate, this is valid or invalid? No, this is not valid, invalid. Okay, identifiers, you should follow the rules. There are 4 rules: 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have the rule number 5. Rule number 5 is Java is the case sensitive. Okay, while giving the naming conventions, everything is matters. Names, spaces, capitalization, everything is matters. Rule number 5 is Rule number 5 is Java is case sensitive. Case sensitive. Everything is matters. Everything is matters. For example, if I write like demo, and it will be treated as it will be a class name. Okay, if I mention like this demo, it will be like as it will be it will be variable name. So while giving the identifiers, while giving the naming conventions for the all Java components, everything is matters. Names, spaces, capitalization, lower cases, everything is matters. You should follow according to the standards. You should follow according to the rules. Are you guys clear with my words? So can you please all of you guys repeat what is rule number 1? Identifiers cannot start with a digit term. Cannot start with a digit term. Next, what is the rule number 2? Identifiers cannot use reserved words. Next, rule number 3, we should not use the spaces. Rule number 4, we cannot use special character as a identifiers. Special characters as a identifiers except underscore and dollar. Underscore and dollar. Next, what is rule number 5? Java is the case sensitive. While giving the naming conventions for the all Java components, everything is matters. Layers, capitalization, symbols, everything is matters. Are you guys clear with my words? Everything is matters. Okay. This is all about identifier. Any queries, anyone? If not, we'll go ahead with the next topic. Next topic we have Java naming conventions. Java naming conventions. Java naming conventions, also called as Java naming standards. Java naming standards. Java naming standards, also called as Java naming standards. While giving the naming conventions for all Java components, there is a certain standards you should follow. There we have certain standards. You have to follow such standards. Such standards. Okay. In Java language, in Java language we follow some standards. We follow some standards. Some standards while giving the naming conventions. While giving the naming conventions for the Java components. Naming conventions for the Java components. Okay. So now we'll try to understand with respect to all components. For example, now we'll go ahead with the class. So how you can give the naming convention for the class. So the first point is class name can contain number of words. Class name can contain number of words. Number of words without spaces. Number of words without spaces. Number of words without spaces. Are you guys clear with my words? Next point is if class name contain more than one word. More than one word, every word, more than one word, every word, every word, first character can be in uppercase. Every word, first character can be in uppercase. Are you guys clear with my words? What is the syntax? syntax, how we can write the programs. Example, not syntax, this is the example. Public class demo test text. You can see here the class name have two words. Demo is the one word, test is the one word. So according to the naming conventions, so this naming conventions is the mandatory. This naming conventions is the mandatory. It is the recommended naming conventions. It is the recommended naming conventions. Recommended naming conventions. Naming conventions. Naming conventions. So according to the naming conventions, we have to follow. Okay, this is the highly naming conventions. So some might be asked questions like if you cannot follow the naming conventions also, if the program will not work, yes, the program will work. For example, last session we wrote some of the program, right? This is the program. So I go with the demo.java and we wrote according to standard. If you write the program like this, which will work, yes, it will work. But this is the not recommended approach. This is not recommended approach. Okay, so you can able to ride the bike without a helmet also. But according to the standards, you have to wear the helmet and you have to ride the bike. Okay, so similarly, while writing the code also, you should follow the such standards. Okay, then only your code will work all the systems, all the environments. You have to follow the standards. This is the highly recommended standards. As a 4 years of guy, you are not following the standards. If anyone they can see and easily they can identify. Uh, they can easily identify. Okay, so you should follow the standards. Next, where we are. Yeah. From here to here, this is the scope of the class. Scope of the class. Okay, very good. This is with respect to class. So now I hope you guys are clear how to give the naming conventions for the class. So don't confuse. So most of them at the beginning level they are confusing at the time of giving the class names. So now I hope you guys are not confused. Not confused, okay? This is with respect to class. This is with respect to class. If the class name can contain number of words, if the class name can contain number of words, every word first character should be in the uppercase. That is the standard one. Okay. Next, we'll go with the interface. Interface. Interface can contain interface also can contain number of words without spaces. Interface can contain number of words without spaces. Without spaces. Okay. Next, if interface contain more than one word, more than one word, if interface contain more than one word, every word first character can be uppercase. Every word first character can be uppercase. First character can be uppercase. Are you guys clear with my words? Whatever the standards we followed in case of class, the same standards we should follow in case of interface also. Class is the keyword, interface is also one keyword. How you can define the interface? That you can define by using interface keyword. Public interface and a demo test. What is the difference between here and here? Class is the one keyword and interface is also one keyword. The same rules, the same standards we are following for the interface as well. This is an example for the interface. This is clear, or anyone have any confusion with respect to interface? I hope no doubts, right? Now we can go ahead with variables. Variables. Variables can contain number of words without spaces. without spaces. First point is common for all, without spaces. Next, if variable, if variable, if name contain, variable name contain number of words are recommended to write, recommended, recommended to write first word, first word can be lowercase, and second word onwards, second word, second word onwards, first character onwards, every word, first character can be uppercase.